All right, this week we are looking at the Argali Vesper Pant. If you missed it, last week I reviewed the Guide Air Fleece from Argali's new clothing project. You can go watch that video right here. Now, I wore these pants for 50 straight days while guiding bear this season. So I did wash them once per week, but it's probably the most extensive singular apparel test I have ever done. I was completely blown away by the fit and the durability, but there was one flaw that was almost a deal breaker for me. I would call this an early to mid-season pant, and that is an incredibly crowded area of the apparel market these days. You've got the attack pant, kind of the mountain pant, the ascent pant. There's a ton of early season, mid-season pants that you can go look at. Traditionally, my primary issue with all of those pants is fit. And this was one area where, for me, Argali knocked it out of the park. But it's one caveat I want to make, because it's almost, if footwear is the single hardest thing to give somebody a recommendation for, because it is so dependent upon the anatomical structure of your individual foot, I think pants are number 2 on that list, where the diameter of your thighs, the length of your inseam, how long your calves are in relation to your upper thighs. Like, there are so many things that go into the structure of your legs that make it hard to know online if pants are going to be a good fit. So take everything I'm saying here with a grain of salt, because while these fit me phenomenally, I can't guarantee they're going to fit you phenomenally. One note I will make: I am 6'1", currently 225 pounds. I'm down 17 pounds since January, by the way. 5 more pounds to go before my goat hunt in 44 days. Let's look at the specs. These retail for $179 USD. They are a tapered leg, true to size waist with a mid-rise design. And I would agree with the kind of true to size component of their description. So I can be between a 36 and a 38 pant. Now that I'm down a couple of pounds, I'm pretty reliably a 36, but I'm at the upper edge of a 36, and with almost all hunting pants, I have to go up to a 38 in order for them to fit my thighs. These, I ran a 36, and a 36 fit perfectly. So if you have an athletic structure, I would highly recommend just running true to size. Whatever you wear in your jeans, order that. Now, the fabric is a 4-way stretch polyester with a PFAS-free DWR coating. Now, much like the grid fleece, Brad from Argali worked directly with a fabric mill to take one of their textiles and customize it for his own individual tastes. And I think he's knocked it out of the park with these pants, because here's my issue. I think sizing with pants is so complicated that the solution most apparel designers are using is they're just using really stretchy fabric to account for their poor sizing design so that they can fit more guys with different shaped bodies. Here's the problem with that. In order to have a pant with more stretch, you need to add more spandex. As soon as you get over like 9 to 11% spandex in any kind of textile, the durability drops through the floor, and the ability to evacuate moisture also drops through the floor. And you can look at that as an inverse. Spandex likes water, so it holds on to water, unlike a polyester. So the more spandex you put in the pant, the longer they're going to hold on to the water. So while a lot of these newer pants feel great when you put them on, the performance in the field leaves a lot to be desired, because the durability sucks and the moisture management sucks. That's one of the things I was really surprised about these pants. You can look at them. I will go over these later, but I'm not kidding when I tell you I wore these for 50 straight days. 7 weeks I guided in these pants, and you cannot find a single element of piling, a single torn thread. I processed, so we killed 11 bears this season, and I personally processed 7 of those. So these were covered in blood. I did 7 different pack outs. I beat the living hell out of these pants, and you would I would wear these out for dinner with my wife right now with how good they look. Like, it's shocking to me. And not only that, I guide in BC, so moisture is a problem. And we had an incredibly wet spring this year. And I was very impressed, not only at how these handled internal moisture, but how they handled external moisture and how quickly they dried once the rain did let up. One of the last comments I kind of want to make on both size and fit. Let's go back again to these super stretchy pants. So yeah, the fit is okay, but lots of times there's extra fabric, and extra fabric means extra noise. And so one of the things I liked about these pants is that they are particularly quiet. Like, I would definitely recommend these pants for any early season bow hunters. I think they would be a great option. I have to guide mule deer this year in Alberta, in my archery territory. And I would be happy if an archery hunter showed up in these pants. And I think, again, that goes back to the size and fit. Because they've got that tapered design. They also seem to have an articulated design. If you've ever worn the Kebs by Flaw, I think they do this particularly well. Like, I feel if you held those pants up to the side, the actual physical profile would have a kink in them because they seem to be pre-articulated for your knees. I felt like I got that same kind of pre-formed fit out of these pants. All right, before we get to the fatal flaw, I got a quick announcement I want to share with you guys.
I wanted to insert this clip while I was editing this video in my office to get you the most up-to-date info as possible. There is only 2 weeks left in the Ultimate Custom Guided Hunt giveaway. So if you go to forgedinthebackcountry.com right now, every $5 you spend is going to get you 1 entry to win a custom guided hunt with Mindful Hunter outfitting. So you can get the new socks I just launched that are getting rave reviews. The boxers are in stock, all sizes, all colors, and of course, the waterproof hats. So what do you actually win? So I will work with the winner to craft the hunt of a lifetime from any of the selections that Mindful Hunter Outfitting offers. So you can do bear or mule deer in British Columbia. You can do trophy archery mule deer in Alberta, or you can head down to Old Mexico with us in January or February and hunt Coues deer with your rifle in the rut. So get on over, forgedinthebackcountry.com. Every $5 you spend will give you 1 entry to win. There's only 2 weeks left.
So for anybody who's watched the channel for any amount of time, you will know I'm a big knee pad guy. I really like knee pads in my pants. These pants do not have the ability to put knee pads in them. And I knew Brad was going to have a good reason why. And after talking about him, it really makes a lot of sense. So he was so focused on trying to nail the fit. When you put an internal knee pad in a pair of pants, you need to design extra volume in that area to account for the knee pad itself. So then you think you're giving people the option to take out the knee pad, but what most consumers, myself included, fail to realize is that then when you take the knee pad out, you're dealing with a suboptimal fit because you have this extra fabric in the knee area to account for that volume that's no longer there. And so he decided he was just going to stick to his guns. He wanted the fit to be perfect, which meant no knee pads internally. He's currently designing a pro version of these pants that will have the ability to run a knee pad externally. Again, another similarity between these pants and the Kebs by Fjallraven is that they have a knee pad option externally. And what that means is they don't have to sacrifice the articulation and the fit through the knee by accounting for extra internal volume due to the space taken up by that pad. Now, the second thing that most people would consider a flaw with these pants, I don't personally, is the lack of an internal belt. So everywhere I look these days, people are like, oh, I want an internal belt. I love internal belts. I don't really personally see what all the hype is about. I'm not that big of a fan. I find the hardware is normally kind of like cheap and plasticky. It tends to slip throughout the day because it's not particularly well designed. It can pinch sometimes underneath the hip belt of my backpack. And most importantly, most of them seem to use like a 1/2 inch wide nylon webbing. Now, if we think a little bit about how a belt works, It's more about giving structure to the waist of your pants than it is about creating tension on your waist. Like, I think I've got this beautiful custom leather belt from Frontiersman Gear. I love that thing. When I wear that, I don't even have to do that thing up tightly. Because it's leather and it's thick and there's structure, it like sits on my hips. But because these internal belts are so thin, it's like the only way I can get them to hold up my pants is like kind of reefing on them. And I find they end up cutting into my hip flexors and they're just not terribly comfortable. My favorite belt on the planet for over 10 years now for backcountry use has been, I think the model is the Ranger by Arcade Belts. It's a stretchy belt. It has a very anatomically designed buckle. It's maybe 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches thick. And what I liked about what Brad did here is that he actually designed man belt loops, real belt loops for real dudes who actually wear belts. And my Arcade belt fits through these loops perfectly. So, warning, if you're in love with an internal belt, these ones don't have one, but if you want my personal opinion, I don't think pants should have them anyways because I prefer using my own belt. One more side note on that, I think he's leaning pretty heavily towards having an internal belt in the pro version of the pant. So if that's a deal breaker for you, it will be addressed in the next generation. One more design feature I want to talk about these pants that at first I hated and then I came to love is the zipper. So you're going to notice the zipper actually goes all the way up to the top. Now, at first, this made it incredibly frustrating because when you want to take a leak and you're wearing your backpack, especially if your backpack's heavy, I don't like undoing my hip belt in order to access my zipper because then everything just slides all over the place and I got to readjust afterwards. In a perfect world, I reach up under my belt of my backpack, undo my zipper, take my leak, stow everything away, rinse and repeat in reverse. The problem with this is because this was up so high, it's problematic to do that. However, now that I've worn these pants for a full season, I think it's a compromise worth making. And he addressed an issue I didn't even know I was having with pants. If you have ever had your pants, how do I explain this? It's almost like they end up folding over at the top because the zipper will come up to the bottom of the belt line and then you just have this one single button holding them together here. And when you wear them all day, it will kind of slide and like do this thing on you and it won't stay flat. And after wearing these for a while, I was like, oh, no way, because it's kind of a pain that the zipper goes all up. However, I think it's a worthwhile compromise because now it stops the pants from doing that. You physically can't get the top of the pant to kind of come misaligned with the other part of the pant. And it stays perfectly flat and you don't get that like pinching and rolling of fabric on your waistline. And then you tend to get stacking underneath the weight of your hip belt there. So I really liked that feature. I was kind of surprised because I haven't seen anybody else do this and it took a little while to get used to, but I'm glad he did it. All right, to reiterate, I am in a pair of 36. I think they fit true to size. I wear a 36 in most of my other stuff. No need to size up and down when it comes to the pants. The first thing I want to bring your attention to is the side vents, because this is something I did not mention earlier when we were in the studio. So they are a decent length, but to be honest with you, I am not a huge fan of when they put this mesh in here. And you can see you can really only open these up about 1.5 inches. And when you stand, it even closes up a little bit more than that. Doesn't really create a whole lot of ventilation. I think one argument is ticks. I get it. Ticks can't get in through here. Also, you don't get dirt and debris. Personally, I favor no mesh whatsoever. When I open up my hip vents, I'm looking to dump as much heat as possible. And somebody said to me the other day, then why don't you just cut the mesh? And I was like a little embarrassed. I'd never thought of that before. So as soon as this video is done, I'm just gonna cut the mesh out of these and then this will open wide up. But basically that's what you're looking at for the hip vents. I do think it's a good length. I don't think they need to go all the way down to the calf. And I don't like it when they're only like 10 inches up here, because then they never really, the way the pants lie, they never really open wide up. Starting at the top and working to the bottom, this is that arcade belt I was talking about. You can see there's a really nice curve to the buckle, really nice ergonomic fit. It never creates any friction underneath my hip belt. And again, it's got some decent thickness to it, so I don't have to have this incredibly tight, and it keeps my pants up all day. And because it's elastic, I think on average on a backcountry hunt, you're losing 3 to 5 pounds between when you wake up and when you go to bed, simply from dehydration. And then you kind of gain that weight back overnight as you kind of, sit in camp, rehydrate, do all the rest of it. And so your pants tend to get looser as the day goes on. I like having an elastic belt because it keeps my pants snug all day, and I don't have to keep readjusting my belt. So you can see, as I mentioned, really nice articulated fit. Like, you'll notice there's not a lot of extra fabric. You don't get a lot of extra noise. You can easily squat right down in these. They're stretchy enough that you have movement, but not too stretchy. 2 one-hand operable cargo pockets. I don't tend to put a lot of stuff in these, to be honest with you, because I don't like the way it feels on my legs. There's also 2 back pockets. Hot take on back pockets, just stop putting them in pants. Who on God's green earth actually uses their back pockets while they're hunting? You're just gonna sit on stuff. Like, it makes no sense to me. I say just get rid of back pockets permanently in all pants as far as I'm concerned. So listen, where do I think this fits in your arsenal of clothing? I will tell you this much. Even without the knee pads, these are gonna be my early to mid-season pants moving forward. But ever since I moved away from the Ascent from Sitka, because the hip to thigh ratio is just terrible on those pants, and I end up having to wear like a size 38 or 40 to get the to get the thighs to fit me. Ever since I moved away from those pants, I haven't really found that kind of early mid-season pant that I've been looking for. And again, other than the knee pads, these pants check all my boxes. Handle moisture very well, hyper durable, great fit. I even like the contrast pocket. I think it gives the pants a nice look. And like I said, I'd literally go out to dinner in these pants right now. There's nothing wrong with them after almost 50 straight days of hunting.